Bigfoot, Bigfoot, roaming through the land. Bigfoot, Bigfoot, a hairy ape-like man.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Bigfoot Today, the show that's all about Bigfoot. I'm your host, Stephen Major, and with me once again is my co-host, Mitch the Man Johnson. How you doing, Mitch?
Just living the dream, Stephen, living the dream.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, we are, buddy. And let me tell you, we have got one heck of a fun and exciting show for you today. As our special guest, we have Jason Kenzie. And I'm telling you what, if you haven't heard about that guy in the last couple of weeks, you're sure going to be hearing a lot more about him in the next coming months. He's an adventurer, filmmaker, very interesting guy, coming to us from New Westminster. Well, that's a tough one to say. New Westminster, BC. And we're going to take a short break, and after that, we'll be back.
This show is sponsored by Extreme Expeditions Northwest LLC, your gateway to adventure, specializing in guided Bigfoot expeditions to Alaska and throughout the Pacific Northwest and Canada.
Well, welcome back, my friends. And now it's time for What's New in Bigfoot Today. Mitch, what do you know? What's new?
Well, two questions. What do I know? Nothing. What's new? A lot. It's amazing. This whole venture with Bigfoot Today, fascinating. It's like the old analogy, an onion. Every time you take a layer away, there's just another layer.
Man,
it just keeps going. And
yeah.
It's so interesting. It's just become really a passionate hobby of mine now.
Oh, that's good. So you are serious now.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
It's about time. Good to see you're coming around.
So if you want to pull up there was an, I think it was in Texas.
Yeah, you've got this.
If you want to pull that up. And basically, what's interesting to me is, yes, they were using a political candidate down in Texas, I believe it was. But anyway, he's using this, metal cutout with his name there. So it would be kind of like Morris Roger, Kathy. So we'd have all these Sasquatch photos.
Well, he's got his name right on it.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So
Bill Leslie for 7.
Yeah, well, it must be the 7th district or something. But when politicians start using it, Sasquatch is definitely mainstream now. That's so cool. I mean, it was kind of yeah. It had a lot of followers, but now it's really mainstream. So pretty cool. I have a couple notes here also. A number of hunters, around here, I suppose anywhere in the country, deer hunters and stuff, and everyone's got their own techniques. But a number of hunters have reported to me that if you're serious about hunting, you need to be careful about the detergent that you use, because some detergents will almost give off an effervescent glow at night. And
that's okay. I didn't hear that.
It makes sense, and also it can produce a certain smell. So if you're trying to get that large buck at hunting season, you need to be careful what you're wearing, because, and of course there was a movie, and I'm sure if you thought about it, you could remember, but it was some sort of a war movie, and these select individuals were going to go in kind of undercover, but during training, they were eating the same thing as the indigenous people in that area.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay,
yeah.
which movie was that? I can't remember now.
It was a Vietnam War flick.
Yes, and so it makes sense.
And it had Brad Pitt in it.
Okay, yeah. And so it makes sense. I mean, if you know anybody who likes to eat spicy foods, a friend of mine loved garlic. Boy, you knew when he walked into the room. And so for the Sasquatch hunters, now last week we were introduced to the concept of an apist, right? Our guest.
Right, yeah, Ken Gerhardt.
Yeah, Ken. Yeah. And so he's more like, it's kind of an ape type creature, or whatever. So I guess I don't know what my category would be. Some people think they go out there and they can track down Sasquatch and hunt them, and they're going to sneak up on them. I'm more of, let's set out some bait, grab a beer, and wait. But now I got to think about what am I wearing? We're not going to sneak up on Sasquatch.
What are you wearing? Is Mitch going to look presentable?
Yeah, exactly.
No, and I agree with you. I understand where you're coming from on that, because there's a lot of these people that are like, I'm a hunter and I'm going to go out and I'm going to sneak up on Sasquatch and I'm going to track him down. I just don't think that happens.
I don't think it happens.
I just don't think that's even possible.
No.
And to think like that. But you've had people that, when you talk about the scents and things, what goes back into my youth is, when we'd bow hunt and stuff, you could actually buy bull scent that you could put on you during, you know what I'm saying? You could buy all these animal scents, man, and go out there to attract the deer or to repulse the deer.
Or repulse or whatever.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So there was a couple of those.
Okay.
But sneaking up on Sasquatch, I don't think it's something that's really happened. I
don't think you can.
I think you get curious. They're going to come to you.
Yes.
That kind of thing. And if you read most reports, it's kind of what really happens,
Yeah.
So I don't really think that they're going to care if you smell nice or you smell bad.
No. But they know you're there.
Yeah.
They know you're there.
Yeah.
And, but if you think that you're going to sneak up on them,
Yeah.
then maybe you need to be more cognizant of what you're wearing and stuff.
Well, you never know. It's just what's
exactly.
consistent with what's going on. But
So you told me you have a lot of things to go over. So let's hear some of those.
I do some very interesting stuff, and it kind of goes into what you had been talking here in the beginning with this city council candidate and all these guys that are, Bigfoot's being co-opted for everything now.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
From the only thing you haven't seen is, well, no, you have car commercials. You've seen everything.
Oh yeah,
But
beer, everything.
Well, there was a congressional candidate 2 terms ago who actually was the first guy, and I think it was from Minnesota.
Gosh, that was if people haven't
guy?
seen that, you need to look it up. That is great.
And he had some of the best commercials about
did.
his other candidate where he used Sasquatch about. It was like, we haven't seen so and so, his opponent, for weeks and weeks and weeks. Do we even know where he is, or how are we going to find him and stuff like that? And that was pretty interesting. But I think the Bigfoot phenomenon, all the interest around it, is only going to explode. It's going on and on and on. But there was a couple of things that I thought were very interesting that I wanted to talk about real quick on what's new in Bigfoot today. And the first of those is I want to tell everyone that our film, Bigfoot Encounters in the Pacific Northwest, is now currently available on Vimeo for streaming. Amazon, not there yet. Some of the other streaming platforms, not there yet. But it is on Vimeo, and I encourage you to check it out. It's a great film. I think you'll really enjoy it. So I wanted to make an announcement on that because a lot of folks are asking me, well, where's the film? That's where it's at. And then the next thing I want to talk about, and I thought this was very interesting this morning, is this was sent to me by another friend in the Bigfoot community. And it's a post by our friend, Mr. Todd Standing. Now, I'm sure if you don't know who Todd Standing is, you haven't read the news. You remember the guy that was suing the Canadian government about, to prove or admit that Sasquatch exists and stuff like that. And he's made that movie, Discovering Bigfoot or Chasing Bigfoot or Hounding Bigfoot or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was something like that. Well, this just came out the other day, and Mr. Standing says, it's regards to Port Chatham, Alaska. And this little article is, step inside the creepy abandoned town of Port Chatham, Alaska. And he says, I want to go to this town and restore the fishing industry there. That's a topic for tonight's live show. Evidently, he just did a live show on iTunes. Tune into that, and please add some questions. And I just thought that was interesting because not only do we have the Bigfoot phenomena, which has exploded, since Extreme Expeditions Northwest, we were the first Bigfoot research team to actually go into Port Chatham, Alaska back in 2018. And we made a feature-length documentary film called In Search of the Port Chatham Hairy Man that's available on Amazon and Vimeo and in other ones. But up until that time, no one had ever bothered to go in there. People didn't want to go in there. And now we have Mr. Standing who's expressing some interest to go in there, not necessarily related to Sasquatch. I guess.
Is he Native Alaskan?
No, he's Canadian.
Oh.
Or my understanding is Canadian. I think he is.
Yeah.
So
I would be interested to listen
Yeah.
to the Native Alaskan Corporation that owns that land and see what their thoughts are on it. But he's just a grandstander. You set the stage. He doesn't have an original thought in his puny little head, but you gave him the idea. So
You're so nice.
Well, no, just real.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. And also, in addition to that, a number of books have come out about Port Chatham, Alaska recently.
Yeah.
Larry Beans Baxter's book and Adam Davis's book.
Yep.
In that, and I was also informed that there presently is a film crew in Port Chatham, Alaska right now that is working on whatever they're working on. They've kept it kind of under wraps, don't know who they are, but I was just told yesterday they in fact are there now.
Nice.
So a lot of interest in Port Chatham, Alaska.
Yeah, you really set the groundwork. moving.
Yeah, we did. It's
and
amazing.
It's very, very good. Very flat. It should be very flattering that they've taken your idea. Now they'll capitalize on it, and you'll sit here in Spokane, Washington, a poor man.
Oh, hey, you know what? That's okay. We were in it to be the first, and we like to be the first.
You
in
did.
Things.
They can't
But it's
change
to
that.
You
They
can't
can't change that.
How many people are going in there now? And here's another thing. Since about Sasquatch making the news again and stuff. And this was an article I found this morning by The Independent, which is a Chewelah, Washington newspaper. And it's kind of humorous, and it says, breaking, the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife has announced that it is investigating several instances of ape-like wildlife in the Chewelah area. These inhabitants are known to hang out in the forest in remote locations up until now have not been scientifically logged. The WDFW biologists confirmed that these bipedal beings have been reported by local loggers, who also claim one of them was running a processor after hours. Now, I'm not sure what a processor is. And, the WDFW is asking people to keep an eye out for these beings as they have been known to frequent HICO for some Keystone Light, especially on April 1st. So I'm not sure what that's all about, but I just think that was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, that's okay.
But on top of that, the Independent's a really good paper. They stay on top of cutting edge stuff, what's going on out there. And they had announced that there is a film company coming up to Chewelah to make a movie about Bigfoot.
Wow.
So it's just...
I mean, I know here in Spokane, there's a lot of talk about, how to accommodate, different studios, filming, production, so there's a lot of interest in the upper left USA. So
man, no, it's good. The next 6 months, there's going to be so much going on in the Sasquatch world that it's just going to, it's going to be mind blowing.
Yeah.
But, I like it because, since we started doing the show, we're getting a lot of attention and we're meeting a lot of fine people like our guest who's coming up here. And speaking of that, I think we're just about out of time.
I have one last thing that's new. I forgot from before. And, in these trying times, there's so much uncertainty. So I came across this quote that I just thought was so relevant for today. So let me just read it to you here. The quote is, collective hysteria is a phenomenon that transmits collective illusions of threats, whether real or imaginary, through a population and society as a result of rumors and fear. Now, that was not from the New Yorker. It was not from the Washington Post. It was not referring to the last election cycle or even currently COVID. This is a quote from our guest's show, a Bigfoot documentary, Searching for Sasquatch, which...
No way.
Yes, way.
Read that one more time.
Okay. Collective hysteria is a phenomenon that transmits collective illusions of threats, whether real or imaginary, through a population and society as a result of rumors and fear. Now, is that not... And okay, really quick, because we want to get to our guest, but that's why we have so much to learn from studying Sasquatch, the Native American, the indigenous culture of it. There's so much to that Sasquatch kind of transcends everything there.
Dude,
so without further ado, we should jump into our guest, but that's from his show.
We're going to bring that up, and excuse us, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with our guest.
This show is sponsored by the Private Money Store Incorporated. They specialize in private real estate lending for commercial or business purposes in Washington State.
Well, welcome back, my friends, and it's time to bring on our guest, Jason Kenzie. But before we actually do, I want to play the trailer for you of his latest film, In Search of Sasquatch. Let's check it out.
This animal is adept at hiding and can be in plain view and not seen.
Oh. Are you hungry? I have a gift for you. It's an apple. I don't mean you any harm. What Pax has told you about what Sasquatch is. Well, this could change everything we ever thought we knew about the evolution of humankind. And also why they stink so bad.
Well, when you put it that way, yes, it could.
Wow, that's great. So
Isn't that-
much
isn't
to
that incredible?
dissect there. Do you see how I believe that was, what do we call that? A skier's a well? What is it around trees on the ski slopes? People die
I don't
often
know.
because
I don't know.
the snow isn't there and they fall head first and their skis are sticking straight up. And,
Well-
and there he was sitting in one. No, it's real stuff.
Well, great. Jason, welcome to the show, man. Glad to
Guys,
have you.
how are you?
You know,
I'm so happy to be here.
I'll tell you, you're doing some wonderful work with these films you've got going. The first one was fantastic, and this one, we can hardly wait to see it. Hardly wait
It
to
was
see
a
it.
lot of fun filming this. It was very interesting, some of the stuff I found, some of the people I interviewed.
I've got to ask you, you're kind of a different guest to have on the show, because I think you're relatively new into your interest in Bigfoot, aren't you?
Well, I've always had a fascination with, monsters and creatures and ghosts and phenomena and just the mystery surrounding all of it. And yeah, I've always loved the idea of there being giant hairy men roaming around the forest. And this time I decided to actually go and see if I can find some for myself.
Now, you're by trade, I mean, you seem to be a multifaceted guy, but from the research I've done on you, it seems that originally you were a wildlife photographer.
I actually started as a wedding photographer and an event photographer. And then I got into doing pets. And then I got into doing extreme animals, extreme pets that people live with. And then I, always loved animals. Always loved going into the forest and into the wilderness and trying to capture photos of these animals.
So
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so I looked at some stuff that you've done now. Well, let me pull up one photo in particular that I got, because I wanted to ask you, I thought it was when you talk about it, can you see that? You appear to be riding an ostrich.
Yes. So like I said, I was taking photos of people that live with the most amazing animals.
Yeah.
And if you go to my YouTube channel, there's over 300 videos of documentaries that I've made of people that live with the most amazing animals. Everywhere from anything from snakes, rats, monkeys, wolves, tigers, ostriches. So I got hired to go and photograph these ostriches that this family raised. Yeah. And in the middle of the photo shoot, I turned to the lady and said, "Hey, would it be okay? I've always wanted to ride an ostrich. Can I jump on the back of this guy?" She looked at me and she's like, "Well, are you serious?" I said, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, no one's ever wanted to do that. If you can get up there, let's do it." It took me 3 tries.
Well,
and,
how long did you stay up on it?
So I stayed. So that ostriches can run up to almost 45 kilometers an hour.
Oh, wow.
So I stayed on to about maybe 10 or 15 kilometers an hour. And then I decided to, I want to say that I jumped off, but it was a collaboration of jumping and falling at the same time. Yeah. And I had my camera, so when I hit the ground, I was trying to protect my camera. Who cares about me?
Yeah.
It's the camera. I wanted to save the camera.
Yes, exactly.
So in your adventures with taking photos of animals and stuff, you've traveled to a lot of different countries doing this, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Many.
And now, the one that I found was particularly interesting. If I read it correctly, you were in Cuba.
Yes.
And you were down there to take pictures of the smallest bird or something?
The bee hummingbirds.
The bee
They're
hummingbird.
the smallest hummingbirds. They're the smallest bird on the planet.
Wow.
They're tiny.
Yeah.
And then while I was down there, someone told me, "Hey, have you tried taking pictures or at least doing video of the tiniest bats in the world, which are called butterfly bats?" So I got all excited. I'm like, "Really?" They're like, "Yeah." So they drew a map and they showed me where they were. and I hired a cab and a guide, and they took me into the jungle to this cave where I walked in, and sure enough, there was bats all over, and the height of the cave was only maybe about 15 feet at some parts. So the bats were flying all around me.
Dude, that's nuts. Like, so do you do this? Do you get paid for this?
Sometimes I get paid for it. It depends on the magazines that want me to go out. It depends on the people that hire me. Sometimes I do it just because I love the adventure.
Yeah, yeah. What pets do you own yourself?
I have no pets whatsoever.
Well, it would be too hard to choose after everything you've seen.
Wait
Where
a
do you even begin?
No, okay. Here's another photo of you. I had to steal this off your site because I thought, I'm looking at this and it says Jason Kenzie. And all I keep thinking is Ace Ventura, pet detective.
I think Noah's Ark when I see that.
What's that?
I think Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was no place for me to put the elephants and the rhinoceros.
Yeah.
They just kept destroying the furniture. Let me tell you, just running all over the place.
No, I just think it's awesome. You know, I myself, I have an affinity for animals, and not all of them, because I cannot stand snakes, and I just can't. But I love birds. I'm a bird man. You know, all my life I've had birds, or I feed birds. I've always wanted to be surrounded by birds, and I presently have. I have a couple of geese, pet geese that I raised and stuff and keep in my backyard. But one thing that I got from your site here also is you're kind of an environmentalist guy.
Yes.
Yeah, in your adventures there, and you make that. Tell us about that.
Well, I think it's very important to people to know what's out there in this world. You know, I'm out there searching for this creature that may or may not exist. And it's important for me to kind of show how beautiful the land is. You know, you go into areas that's been untouched, and it's beautiful. And it's very important that we do protect the world that we live in. You know, developers are slowly chewing away out of our forests. And eventually, it might take 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years, but eventually there won't be any forests, at least old growth forests.
Yeah, no, I like the fact that you've expressed that. That's one thing that I don't enough in that, because when we go out there and, God gave us this beautiful world, and He gave it to us to enjoy, and it's our playground and to do our things and stuff. But if something, if more measures aren't taken to protect this environment, pretty soon there won't be anything left.
Well, what his documentaries do, because I'm a greedy capitalist tree hugger, but it brings it real, because the argument always is, well, why should I care? Why should I care? And so he's bringing it in pictures so people can see for themselves, oh, maybe that is why I should care. So I think it's great. I think the work you're doing is just awesome.
Well, dude, and I got to tell you too, because Jason, you probably saw this when you were up on Vancouver Island recently, up there up north. I spent a lot of my years, as a youngster up there, and a lot of time afterwards, but their logging seems to be out of control up there.
Yes.
And the last time I was up there, just north of Campbell River, I thought, what happened here? And they're just logging the heck out of it up there, and it's causing a lot of concerns to a lot of people. I'd like to see that.
Well, it's the old growth, the ancient forest. These are trees you can't even fathom.
But Sasquatch, that's his habitat.
Exactly.
He lives there, and not to mention all the elk and all the
everything else,
all the other animals out there. But no, I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Now let's talk about your experiences with Sasquatch so far. You did your first film. And when exactly was that completed, and where did you make that one at?
So I made it here, right in my backyard, maybe about 600 kilometers away from here. And it took me about a year and a half to film it. And I completed it only a few months ago, really.
Oh, so it was that new.
It was very new. Yes, very new. So those footprints that I came across in that mountain lake are still there. They're impounded in the mud.
Right. Now, sorry to interrupt you there. During the film, they're still there. Did you try to go out in the water or anything to get a close? Did you
No.
just droned it or what?
I just droned it.
Yeah.
I knew that if I went into the water, not only would it be cold, and I wasn't prepared because I didn't know what to expect,
Yeah.
right? Because you think of footprints being in a lake, it would be destroyed over time.
Yeah.
And when I'm interviewing, and he tells me that they're still up there, it caught me off guard. I had no idea he was going to say that. And so I wasn't kidding when I said that a lot of stuff he said after that, I didn't listen because I was like, what? They're still up there? No way. I have to go up there and check it out.
Yeah.
And so when I went up there and saw, I didn't think they're going to be there.
Yeah.
So when I hiked way up into the mountains to this lake, sure enough, when you drone it, you can see that there is giant footprints going all the way through this lake, back and forth. And I had just finished interviewing all these other eyewitnesses and even the First Nations who say that this is a migration path.
Okay, there's more to it. Okay.
Yeah, so in the documentary, all the way through before I went to the footprints, they were all saying they believe this is a migration path. So when I went to the lake and saw all these footprints, it does look like something. I don't want to say it's Bigfoot or Sasquatch. To me, because I haven't physically seen the big hairy guy at the time, that I can't say that it's Sasquatch footprints, but I'm telling you, they're big footprints, and there's hundreds of them.
So was this your first evidence that you came across, physically saw, of alleged Sasquatch tracks?
Well, many years ago, I had gone up with another group of Bigfooters who wanted me to photograph and film them doing their thing. So I wasn't big into the Bigfoot back then, but we did find footprints in the forest, big ones. We did find the trees that were ripped out of the ground and turned upside down and ran back into the ground. Now, like I said, because I've never seen the Sasquatches, I don't know how that this stuff happened.
Yeah.
For all I know, they were playing games with me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I have seen stuff, and we're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. When you say that specifically in the middle of nowhere where you were at, that's north of, you're in New Westminster.
New Westminster, so I was very close to Whistler.
Okay. Okay.
So I was, in between Whistler and right in the middle of the wilderness there.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, then you finished that film up, and then your new one you're coming up, you just went to Vancouver Island.
Well, actually, I went into a few places, but I mostly focused out east of Vancouver, close to Manning Park. I was out in that area mostly filming in the forests. Vancouver Island was very subtle, and I kind of showed it a bit in chapter 1. But it's very exciting. The stuff that I found in Manning Park area was pretty crazy. Like the stuff I saw on the floor was interesting. Where it looked like something's moving back and forth.
Yeah.
In the forest, and I couldn't see anything, but I could hear footprints. Like I could hear something moving around. So when I look on the floor, even though it was all yellow, you could still see like a reddish tint of something moving back and forth. And I'm trying to look in the forest, and I couldn't see anything.
Yeah. Were you by yourself?
Yeah, I was by myself at times.
Yeah.
My camera person didn't want to stay with me at certain times because they was too scared.
Yeah.
They thought I was crazy. And I actually dug a snow cave. That was a snow cave that you saw me sitting in.
You dug that.
I dug that out, and I made it so I could sit up, and when I could fall asleep. And then in the night, and I don't know if it was my imagination or my everything coming alive, but things come alive at night
Yeah.
in the forest. So you could hear things walking around.
Man, no, especially I've had a lot of experiences similar to what you're talking about up there on Vancouver Island, where we spend most of our time there. And it's true, at night, certain things do come very, very alive.
Well,
And-
the aggressiveness of Sasquatch is kind of up to conjecture, but there's no doubt mountain lions, grizzly bears, et cetera,
Yes.
et cetera. There's plenty of evidence of how
Yeah.
dangerous those are. So, yeah, if you're sitting there and hearing the
Well-
snow crunching a little bit, maybe Mama Bear got up and from her long nap and needed a snack.
Well,
And that could be a possibility.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's always that's always a possibility. It could be that, or it could be some other things.
But nonetheless, the point
you
is you're the
There's
smart one.
other predators out there
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
could do harm to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't believe that if Sasquatch, if they're real, that I will go walking up on them. I think it's the other way around. I think Sasquatches would come to me. And I'm very aware of that when I'm out there. And though I'm making noises and hooping and hollering, I'm doing that because I'm letting whatever out there know that I'm there. Even the cougars, even the
Yeah.
lynxes,
Yep.
even the
Where's the
chipmunks.
dinner bell?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you wear one of the
Yes.
dinner bells recommended on Vancouver Island?
Yeah.
Sometimes I just put salt and pepper all over me and just like, come to me.
Oh. We talked a little bit the other day, and about Vancouver Island, and not only have we experienced what we've found tracks and vocalizations and get some FLIR stuff. Just being out in certain places that far out in the wilderness at night, you hear things that just will scare the living beans out of you, and you can't explain them. Weird noises, like people talking, things like that. It gets really spooky in some of those areas.
Absolutely.
Have you ever experienced anything outside of maybe the realm of an animal or a creature when you've been up there when you were up on Vancouver Island?
So I had talked to a lady by the name of Carol, and she is a medium, and she channels a god being by the name of Pax. And it was interesting what she told me about, like she writes books, and it's through Pax. So this god being, and this is what she's told me, will channel through her, and she will write books, like write what this god being has told her. And one of the things that this god being told her that Sasquatches can cloak themselves, and they can be right beside you and you wouldn't even know. Now, is this true what she told me? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm just relying on what she told me. So going out into the forest when things are around you and you can't see anything, it makes you wonder, like, could these creatures actually be so camouflaged that they can be close to you and you just can't see them?
Yeah. You know what? And I believe that to be true to a great extent. When we've all got that sixth sense, that we have. And, I don't know about you, but, a couple times up there in areas that we went out to on the island, I'm just ho-hum and I'm just walking along, and, looking for sign and tracking. And then all of a sudden, I just am overcome with this sense of terror and fear, and my neck, the hair on my neck stands up, and I don't know why, and it seems almost irrational. like I've just crossed into this zone or whatever, and I just have this feeling that some presence is near, and it's physical, and it's watching me and stuff like that. And you look around and what, and I think to a great degree, I don't know about cloaking or things of that nature, but I definitely believe that they are so, they are so well at camouflaging themselves, maybe through hereditary things, or, just over time, that you can be out there and not find them, But the thing that always blows my mind is when you'll find a trackway, and a number of times we've found a trackway, and we'll be following it, and it'll go about, anywhere from sometimes, 3 or 4 steps to, 20 yards, and then it just stops. Then it just disappears. Poof, it's gone. And, and we've made a concerted effort to always try to find out where it picks up again. If it does, and a lot of times you can't. And that's one thing I can never explain. How do they do that?
Are you saying that Sasquatch fly?
No, dude, I don't know. I'm just saying, that's one thing that that we've encountered in that.
Unexplained things out there.
And that's the gal you were talking about. That's her at the beginning of your trailer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's her.
Yeah.
And she's quite famous. Like, she has thousands of followers. There's people that believe in what she does. And I was honored to be able to interview her. And she actually channeled with Pax. Pax channeled through her the night before, and she asked him a lot of questions about what Sasquatches are. Yeah. She wrote them down, and she gave me the piece of paper that was channeled through this God being that talked about what Sasquatches are. And I have this all in the documentary that is going to launch in July or August, and I'm excited to have people watch it and see what she has to say.
Well, I have to ask you this, because you mentioned that you had interviewed a lot of First Nations people, correct?
Yeah.
So you've spent a lot of time with them and the elders and whatever. You've talked to a lot of them about it, and then you're talking to this lady, and she's giving you her insight and stuff. Without giving away too much detail, are there consistencies or more inconsistencies between?
What's interesting is I have actually talked to some First Nation people who don't believe in Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Which blows me away.
Yeah.
Because I'll talk to some other First Nation people who totally believe in it 100%. And there's a lot of different varieties of what they say Sasquatches are. Some say that they're people, like they're just large, hairy people that live in the forest. Other people say that they're spirits, that they just blow in the wind, and they, they're there to protect us. And it's interesting, some of the stuff that I get from some of these people.
Yeah, and that's a good point to make, because there are a lot of inconsistencies in what Sasquatch, Dunakwa, Nantanak, all of them, depending on which tribe that you're talking to specifically, or which nation, or what, there's differing things. Some believe they're spiritual, some believe they're physical, and, they're just another tribe and that. And so there is a lot of inconsistencies that you will find amongst them, depending on where you may be geographically and the peoples that you're with at the time. And stuff, and that's interesting you bring that up, because here I am on Vancouver Island, and every now and then I'll run across, very rare up there among the First Nations, but every now and then I'll run across a guy who just absolutely denies, refuses, doesn't believe that Sasquatch even exists, that it's just that that's all made up in that, and that so anyways, it can get very, very interesting. What is your primary motivation in getting involved in doing Sasquatch films? Is it entertainment, or do you have a real interest in proving the existence?
Yes, I really want Sasquatch to be real. I really want to have an experience.
Yeah.
I really want one to just walk up to me and slap me in the face.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, then I'll pick up my head off the ground and throw it back onto me, and then I'll be like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do love the adventure. The thing is, I hike all the time. I camp all the time. I love being in the forest. And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to take a camera and I'm just going to go into the forest and I'm going to make these films.
Yeah.
I'm starting to work on chapter 3 right now.
Excellent.
And yeah, it's great. I am. And so that's why I'm interviewing people who have had experiences and have the knowledge. And then the goofy guy goes into the forest to be bait.
Yeah. No,
Or either cougar or bear or Sasquatches.
That's always been my job, because I'm the slowest moving guy on the team, and it's like, hey, where you have the little, the bird that acts like it's wounded to attract, to lead people away.
But in your case, it's not an act.
Yeah, in my case, it's not an act. I can't run anyway, so I said, let me go out there first. You can leave me, just make sure you don't really leave me in that. But what you said is profound, and some people may find it humorous where you say, well, I want to go out there and I want to get slapped in the face by Sasquatch. Well, yes, that is kind of a humorous bent on it, but you sound to be a lot like us, because where we go to these places, we had mentioned like Port Chatham earlier and certain places out on Vancouver Island, stuff like that, is we want to go into an area because that's what we want to have. We need to have that type of encounter. I mean, like the most profound thing you've got going is you have the Patterson-Gimlin film, which was from '67, which I believe is a female Sasquatch, and that has a lot of, it's valid in my opinion. In that, but since then, nobody's really had a authentic encounter that is indisputable, that you can have 16 seconds of film or whatever the length of the Patterson-Gimlin film. And that's what needs to happen, and that's what we want to happen, is to go out there and be able to have that type of encounter and to be able to get it on film to where it can be analyzed and be indisputable. And if you have somebody in a film who's getting whacked by a Sasquatch and he's flying 20 feet and bouncing off the tree, they're going to have to do a police report. So, and the guy's going to be in a hospital. You can interview him and say, yeah, this really happened. And you'll probably get some Bigfoot DNA on him, right?
Exactly. I'll be there in a hump on the ground, and I'll just look up and go, here's some DNA.
You know what? We've got something coming up that you definitely have to be involved in this fall. I'll tell you that right now, man. We've got an operation going. But anyways, I think we're getting short on time, man. And I really appreciate you being on the show. And what else would you like to say to the folks? I mean, you've got as much time as you want, but what would you want to get out in this interview that we may have not asked?
So video doesn't, like, you can get a really clear shot of Sasquatch, but if you just have video, skeptics will be like, well, that's the guy in a suit. Yeah. So what you need to do is, not only do you need video of it, you don't turn the camera off. You walk up to the area where the Sasquatch was walking or running, and you go for the footprints at the same time without turning the camera off. And when you get both of those together, then it will show that will be proof enough. It will. Nobody ever gets both.
They don't
get the Sasquatch video and the footprint. Right. And if you can get hair at the same time, there's always a cut. It's like, oh my gosh, look, this blur squatch running. That's it. Look, I got it. Give me $1 million. But where's the footprint? The dang thing's running in front of you. Run after it. Because I've said this, and I'm adamant. If I see something in the forest with lots of fur, and I know it's not a bear, I'm going to run after it. And I'm telling you right now, there is no way possible that anybody that is wearing a monkey suit is going to outrun me in the forest jumping logs. There's no way. Yeah. I will catch up to that person because they won't be able to see very good in the monkey suit. They just won't. If you can't catch up to that creature and it outtakes you, then you have to reassess everything, really.
Yeah. Dude, that's a good point. Thank you very, very much for saying that.
Yes,
because
that really
we don't hear that enough. Because one of the things that is most frustrating about the 10,950 million clips of Sasquatch that you can find on the internet today is they're either, if you saw this thing, why didn't you go after it? Why in conjunction with seeing it, follow it, get the tracks, more film of it, so that you have all these things, little pieces you can put together.
Yeah.
So you see it, you go after it, you can get, when you're filming, you can get your tracks with it. Then when you get up to it and it rips your head off, it's at least going to be on your GoPro.
Yeah.
Then you got it.
Bro, it's be a nice selfie.
Yeah. But that's like when we go out, we're all wired. I mean, we've got we are wired, kind of. Too much coffee, but that's why we always wear the cameras. Everybody's wearing a body camera. When I say that, we got a GoPro strapped on everybody. So even if we've got our main camera guy filming and you have some type of occurrence, no matter what happens, you're still going to have something going to get the rest of whatever that encounter may be and stuff. Well, anyways, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And I'm glad to hear you voicing that. So it's exciting, man. It's going to be exciting to see your film. It's going to be exciting to see what you do after that. And hopefully we'll get to do something with you.
It's crazy how popular Chapter 1. God, it has almost 90,000 views on YouTube. And within 2 months. Wow. And how popular that, this film has got. And I'm looking forward to showing Chapter 2.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to be here and to meet you, Stephen.
Yeah. Well, dude, one of the things about your film too, I was surprised at how popular it was so quickly. And I'm like, boom. And next thing you know, I'm going, he's got 90,000 people watch this thing. I don't even know who the hell this guy is and stuff. And he comes up with his film and I'm like, should I take him serious? Should I not take him serious? I don't know. But dude, I think, and I mentioned this earlier, one of the reasons that I love your work so much is if anybody spends any time looking at what you do, and they can tell that you're a real guy and you're out there doing the real deal. You're an extreme adventure guy and you're not going, you're not going to a city park. You're going out there and you're doing the deal. But one of the things that you add to the genre of Bigfoot films is you've got serious adventure, serious investigative work combined with some great wit and humor that kind of just makes it enjoyable to watch. And
we won't mention any production companies in particular, but they think they're just going to pull up in their van, spend 2 days, and say, "Okay, where's Sasquatch? Now we got to get back to the bar or wherever they're going."
No.
But sounds like you're spending quite a bit of time out there, and that's part of it.
Well, I'm learning a lot from him as far as, because like in Search of the Port Chatham Hairy Man, I try to interject some humor in there, but it all seems to get lost somewhere along the way. Mm-hmm. And because people never say, "Oh, that was funny what you said, this or that or whatever." I try to put it, to add a little brevity to the situation. But anyways, we're excited about seeing everything you've got coming down the pike, film-wise, man, and just look forward to doing something with you in the future, man. Getting out in the field and doing some real good stuff.
That'll be so much fun. I'm so looking forward to it.
Well, outstanding. And once again, thank you very much for being on the show. And ladies and gentlemen, Jason Kenzie.
Thank you.
Well, my friends, thanks again for joining us for another episode of Bigfoot Today, the show that's all about Bigfoot. And once again, be well, be kind to one another, and we'll see you next week.
There's a fable of a beast that once roamed this land. Some say still exists as a big tall ape man, standing over 8 feet tall, quite a sight to see. Living in the forest, he's quite a mystery. Bigfoot, Bigfoot, roaming through the land. Bigfoot, Bigfoot, a hairy ape-like man.